Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about the 100, episode 609, titled What You Take With You, which premiered Tuesday, July 9, 2019 on the CW. I'm recording roughly an hour and 5 minutes after the episode is aired, so it's 11:05 p.m. for me right now. So huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. Otherwise, my other video reminders are up on screen, so take your moment to remind yourselves of those. Also, this episode marks the beginning to the rest of the season, as there are no more hiatuses until the finale has finished. So that's also great. Before we get into that, though, quick shout out, YouTube shout out to Peter James. Hopefully I said that correctly. Not only a shout out for them leaving their comments in my 608 video, but also just a thank you as well for pointing out that to me that Clark actually took not only the flame and she took the key in 316 in order to stop Allie. So the remains of the key that she ingested is what is keeping Clark alive, with the whole Josephine thing. I don't know why, but I just completely forgot about that part. I was solely focused on the flame component of what Clark did because that was what made her different from everybody else. But I forgot completely that she took both of them, or she had both of them in her. So thank you for that, for pointing out specifically that she was taking the both, and for your patience. Definitely set that whole mystery aside for me. So thank you, Peter James, for that. But with that being said, I'm going to try to do this in 20 minutes. So let's start the clock and let's begin with what happened in this episode. So timeline wise, I believe it continues from the events of 608, but I think it's been a few hours since the next time we do see Bellamy and Josephine. It's nighttime for them when it was there was still daylight when we saw them last in 608. So there is that. Plus, I also think it's a few hours because Octavia wakes up after collapsing at the end of the previous episode. And Gabriel doesn't mention that like she's been out for days or anything like that. And I don't think Bellamy and Josephine would have been roaming around in Children of Gabriel territory without being caught for a few days. So that's my reasoning there. Episode reminder, I'm going to say for the fact that not only is it start to the last portion of the season, but also the fact that we do get two different versions of Octavia in this episode, which is pretty cool. So there's that. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know I'm a huge fan of Orphan Black and the whole technicalities behind one actress playing multiple roles at the same time, like we got with Orphan Black and Tatiana Maslany playing all those different clones. So it was great to see Maria doing the same thing with Octavia in this episode. So that's a huge reminder there. The episode objective, I'm going to say, again, deals with the storyline. So one being finding answers with the anomaly, finding Gabriel, as well as Kane's adjustment, which would lead me into my three storylines that I picked up, giving to the fact that number one, investigating the anomaly, number two, finding Gabriel, and number three, adjusting as a prime. So with the first storyline, this is where you get Gabriel or Xavier. It's all my notes say Xavier, but I know it's Gabriel, so it's a little trickier there. But anyways, he injects Octavia with a toxin from the anomaly that allows her to be put back under, so she get answers about her trip into the anomaly, since she completely has no recollection of her following after she followed Deoza into the anomaly. This leads us into Octavia's inner subconscious, I guess you could say, and having her deal with her Blood Reina counterpart. So there's that. Second storyline with finding Gabriel is Bellamy forcing Josephine to follow him as he tries to find Gabriel so that he can help get Josephine out of Clark. But they are captured by the children of Gabriel. We also find out and we see that the wall between Josephine and Clark is diminishing because not only is she having her body's having seizures, but we have Josephine recalling a lot of the key moments between Bellamy and Clark, and also Clark being able to hear while Josephine is in control. And also later on, Clark being able to recall certain things from Josephine's side of the wall and using them for herself, type of thing. So they don't have much time left. So there's that. Third storyline is adjusting as a prime. We're back up in space for this one. And this is where we see Kane the second struggling with his new life in Gavin's body. He's trying to make sense of it, but it's just not working for him. He ultimately teams up with Raven so that they wake up Indra to make a plan as to how they could counteract Simone and the rest of the primes. Which leads to the last moments episode where we do see Kane, not only the Kane the second, but also the original Kane, being floated with the Nightblood serum. So he's actually, both versions of him are dead after this point of the episode, which I wasn't expecting, which I'll get into later on. But character-wise, so with Clark and Josephine, I particularly wanted to touch upon the fact, I did mention it already, but we do find out that the wall between them is diminishing to the point that while one is awake, the other one can still listen, and they can both access each other's memories and knowledge. So it seems that Clark, who is back in control now, has until she falls asleep again before Josephine gains back control. But does that same thing apply if Clark happens to get knocked out and put into consciousness? Or being put in an unconscious state? Does that mean Josephine would be able to gain control from that? Or are they both knocked out during that moment? So that's a question there. But Octavia, we do see her in this episode facing her inner demons and realizing that she doesn't just want forgiveness, but she wants redemption for what she's done. So there's that as well. So tidbit-wise, though, we do get confirmation that the people of Sanctum believe that the vessels or the hosts believe that the hosts are still alive once they give themselves over to the primes, and they believe that they are sharing their body with the primes, when in actuality, which we have seen, is that the host mind are killed and then the primes are inserted into the body. So everyone of Sanctum is been fed a lie and grown up, as Kane put it, they're sheep for the slaughter type of thing mindset, and he says it greatly when he confronts Simone about that. Also, another tidbit is the fact that people in space seem to be unaware of what's happening on the ground, and vice versa. Raven, Abby, they are not aware of the fact that Clark has been taken over by Josephine, or the fact that Russell has put pretty much a manhunt alert for Josephine to be found, and he's kept everybody who is from the ship under lock and watch, just as those people on the ground aren't aware of the fact that Kane just floated what they believe is their last hope of having to create more Nightbloods. So there's that. We also do see another tidbit being that Josephine attempts to make a crack at Bellark. She even summarizes their journey together, as I've mentioned before, but Bellamy seems to deflect with the issue at hand being his focus, and that is separating Clark from Josephine, or separating Josephine from Clark. Also, another thing to take note of the fact is that no one inside Sanctum, like the village, I guess you could say, is shown. Therefore, we have no idea about Jordan's medical status, since we last saw him in the previous episode being stabbed by Maddie when she was trying to go after the Priya. So there's that. So let's move on to ship status very quickly. Bellamy and Clark, they are briefly reunited before the children of Gabriel interrupt, when Josephine gives Clark control of her body, just so that Clark can save the body, since we know now that Josephine does not know how to fight to save her life, like physically. She's more, no, I'm not going to say that, because Clark is kind of both. But anyway, so then that we also have a bit of Josephine and Gabriel through Josephine's recollection is the fact that she claims to be in a complicated relationship for Gabriel in the last 275 years, I believe, with the last 70 of them being him trying to kill her. But she definitely seems affected by the news that Gabriel is still alive, while she's believed that he's been dead and gone for the last 70 years. So that's something there. Also with Octavia and Gabriel, when she's about ready to leave, they seem to share an understanding with each other, because he's not trying to restrain her and keep her with them. He seems to be letting her go, realizing that she needs to do this. And then when they are ready to leave, instead of doing the handshake, which is already a form of an understanding there, but it's that long arm forearm thing that we've seen many of our characters do before, kind of like a warrior in arms type of thing. I don't know what to call it, but they both do it, and it's kind of like they are understanding where they stand with each other, I think. So I think that's progress there with each other. It definitely seems like a trust has been formed, at least. So there's that. And then we get Kane and Abby, and we get them not only having a night together, I guess, before they get their final goodbyes, before he floats himself. Which leads to my most shocking moment in the episode, was the fact that Kane II floats himself with the Nightblood serum. I was I wasn't expecting Kane to be in the airlock. I kind of expected them to put the serum in it and then lock it up and then let it go. I didn't expect him to be in there with it. I thought that we would get a few more episodes with Kane the second to kind of explore Kane having this new vessel and him trying to make sense of what it means. Is he still him? Is he not without his original body? What makes him him type of thing. But they really did a good job for this one episode to show all those struggles. We saw Kane looking over the fact that he doesn't have his scars, he doesn't have his wounds, which on the one hand is good, he's not in medical danger, but then he also notes the fact that he doesn't have the coalition brand, he doesn't have the crucifixion scars, he doesn't have the scar he would have had from Vincent's neck bite, and he was pointing out a lot of things that physically they made him because him having gone through all that also made him who he is on the inside, essentially. But he definitely did a great point in that moment to kind of showcase like those are key things that he's had to come to deal with, and like he's associated as being a part of him, and now that he doesn't have it, it's kind of like he's lost a part of him. And then also when he's kissing Abby for the first time, he does point out the fact that she doesn't taste the same, she doesn't feel the same, and it's just like it feels all wrong to him. So in this episode, the fact that we only got one episode with Kane II, it was very interesting to see the differences he points out and he immediately notices about his new body and about seeing the world through these eyes, and to immediately understand from him that like what has happened to him is not okay, and he comes to the decision that this is something he can't really live with. While he understands Abby did it, it's not something that he can continue forward with. So I'm actually very like, on the one hand, it's very part of Kane, but I kind of expected this to kind of go over a few more episodes, but they did it really well for the one episode they gave it. But it's still a shock to the fact that he ended up floating himself, especially when Raven pointed out that in this moment in time, they do need Kane's guidance and his advice to help them through this tough time right now. So it was a surprise when he went through it. So anyways, let's move on to parallels. A new segment right now, but we do have the parallel of Kane floating himself. He did point out the fact to Abby that he did not want her to see this happen again, paralleling the fact that her first husband, Jake, was floated, and we saw it happen in a flashback from 103. So even though they're not a husband and wife, the fact that Abby is now seeing her loved one being floated again was a parallel that was specifically drawn upon. We also do get the parallel between Blood Reyna sentencing Pike in Octavia's mind in the exact same way that Pike was sentencing Lincoln before he was executed. The only difference this time was the fact that Octavia intervened with Blood Reyna. But it's very interesting to see how they cross-cutted those sequences to show Blood Reyna and Pike going through it, and then kind of flashing sporadically with Pike and Lincoln, and how Octavia was struggling to separate the two or to deal with the fact that history was repeating itself. So that was pretty cool there, which would lead to me to my top 3 favorite moments. The first one majorly being the fact that Octavia's whole journey inside her head, I guess you could say, we definitely get a huge onslaught of memory flashes or segments of her in the arena and just getting swarmed with all these moments of the last few years for her. It was such an intense moment of recollection that it gave me goosebumps just to see all that being reminded to me so quickly. It was such well done to really emphasize what Octavia was dealing with mentally and how she struggles with dealing with everything that she's done over the last 6 years. 6 years. The way it was done was just phenomenal. Also, the fact that we got her encounters with Pike and his lessons and trying to get through to her to these realizations that she needed to make in order to move forward. And then also leading into Octavia's fights with Blood Reyna, or the Red Queen. That was pretty cool just to see the difference in stance, in costuming, in behaviors. It was so interesting and so cool. And then just to see Octavia's reaction to having the Blood Reyna memories and trying to separate herself from that. So it was very cool. And then in the end, we did see Octavia killing Blood Reyna in the arena and just coming out on top, which was awesome. Another favorite of mine, of course, has to be Bellamy and Clark. First off, the fact when Bellamy finds out that the body has come to the point where Clark can actually hear while Josephine's in control, and he tells her, "I won't let you die," Bellamy telling Clark. And then it was very interesting to see Josephine's reaction to that, because she was like, either she was surprised he would say that, or she was surprised of how he said it, as if like kind of as a realization, because I have no idea, of like maybe like she never receiving that type of an intense statement from somebody before. Like for Bellamy, is like he's very determined not to let Clark die, and you can see it. And so like Josephine's reaction has me wondering, it definitely, I like that she seemed surprised by it, or she was thrown by it. So there's that. Another thing that I liked about Bellamy and Clark was the fact that in that moment when Josephine was about to get beheaded, I love the fact that you see that switch, and Josephine gives control to Clark in order to save the body from execution. So Clark is kicking ass, which is my second favorite, which is my third separate favorite moment, is the fact that Clark was able to kick ass and keep her control after doing so. But anyways, back to Bellamy and Clark. And then after doing that, Bellamy is just so relieved at seeing Clark in control, and then she's able to sneak him the key before she has to run off before the children of Gabriel get her. And then the fact that when he tells her to run, Clark's like, "I'm not leaving you." And then he kind of tells her, "You need to, or they're going to kill you," type of thing. And she slips him the key. So it was just really great for them to have that brief reunion moment. And just the fact that she was able to have control back. And I was kind of afraid that it would just be like a split second thing. But the fact that she was able to, all she needed was that split second to gain back control once again. Again, now she has to worry about falling asleep and losing that control. But the fact that we got to see Clark back in control and everything, I'm so relieved. So let's go right into Clark kicking ass. Was just phenomenal. The way she was able to not only take down the children of Gabriel and fight to survive, but then she also was managing to use the guards from Sanctum to her advantage, because they still believe that it's Josephine in charge. So that was pretty cool there. When she pretty much sassed Josephine when she was asking, "Well, what else did you learn?" when Clark was doing the revving of the motorcycle, speaking another language. It's just like Clark was just being sassy. She made the radio call. It's just like, yes, Clark is back. And another thing I have to say with this moment for Clark was the fact that seeing them both I guess the last time we saw Clark in 607, you don't really see it because it's distinctly Josephine and Clark, two different actresses. But in this episode where it's Eliza playing both Josephine and Clark, I have to say, I gotta hand it to her, because like, I don't know how to say it, but the way she does the tones, the mannerisms are all very different. But like the moment where she switched, I could immediately tell. Like nothing was any different. Clark's body was still being forced against that rock, getting ready for execution. But I could suddenly tell, like with like just the way her body was being held, or the way she held her body, or the way like she just started her sentences. I immediately knew that it was Clark in charge. It just like Eliza did such a very well done job in doing distinct little things to differentiate her Josephine interpretation and then Clark. I mean, they don't have different accents? I don't believe so, because like I'm not really good with accents. It's only like when it's really obvious and it's like a slight, like then I'll know. But when it comes to different like versions of American accents, I don't know. But like with Josephine, I don't know. I get the feeling like her speech is a little more high pitched. She's a little more jovial, a little more like, not like there's a weight of the world on her. She seems more teenager like, even though she's like been around for 275 years technically. And then Clark, you got more of like, you can feel like the weight of the world. She has like a responsibility, an agenda, like a warrior mindset, and like her tone's a little lower and a little more like distinct, I guess. But like, I don't know, it's just like she did an amazing job. The fact that you could see that easy switch, and it's like, you know, like, oh, it's the other person taking over now. It's just like, I was so thrilled to see Clark back, but just to see that switch in action is just like, I was completely amazed, and it was just like phenomenal. It's kind of like bringing back to Orphan Black, which I mentioned before, where we see, which is about a whole bunch of clones, and Tatiana Maslany is the actress who plays a multitude of clones, but my favorites were not only when there was clone talking to clones, but I always loved it and I was always impressed by it when it was a clone trying to impersonate another clone, because then like for that it's like you have to be the first clone and then you have to shift that first clone in a way to make them seem like the second clone, and like that distinction, and then like to have it once the jig is up and then they revert back to the original. It's just like that slight difference is all you need, because it's still technically the same actress, right? But their ability to make that switch and make you see that difference and have that distinction, like, oh, it's this character this time, it's like there's no question about it. I love that I got to see that done with Eliza, and it was just phenomenal. So I'll just leave it at that because I didn't expect to go all the way deep into that. But my last favorite of the episode was the fact that Indra returns. When her name popped up in the credits for Adina, I was thinking, oh wait, is she only returning because of Octavia's visit into her subconscious? So I was like, oh, okay, maybe not Indra's back. But then to find her coming out of cryo sleep, I was like, yes, okay, she's back. And I've been waiting a long time for Indra to return, because like we need that solid voice that speaks reason and like gives advice and stuff and like wisdom with her. But like I'm glad she's back. But she's also tied in with one of my peeves, and it's the fact that her hair was not consistent. I mean, I have nothing against her new haircut. It just is a continuity peeve of mine that she is sporting this new haircut right when she comes out of cryo sleep. And I'm thinking, well, when did she get a haircut? Because I'm pretty sure she didn't have that hairstyle going into cryo sleep. So what, you're going to tell me that they did her haircut while she was in cryo sleep and then she comes out with a new do? Because like we haven't seen her since 5/13. So it's just like, it's a continuity here thing. I love her hairstyle now. But the fact that they couldn't have her come out of cryo with the old hairstyle and then cut to a scene and have a little comment on the fact like, oh, I needed a little change to kind of explain the new hairdo so soon. And then it was just like, the fact that they didn't do that, it was just like, immediately, the first time I'm seeing you since 5/13 and yet you have a new look. It's just like, continuity, what? Like, you didn't do anything. How is that possible? So that's the only peeve I had, and it was a little minor one, but you know I am a stickler for continuity, and it just bugs me when it's not kept in place. So that was a peeve there. And then another peeve I did have was the fact that Kane didn't end up exposing the truth about the primes before he floated himself, specifically to Gavin's wife, because he was just about ready to expose it all, but Simone dismissed her guards. But I thought if anyone would be able to expose them and have it be believable, it would be Kane, because he is the one in the vessel, or in the host. He is the one that could say, no, I'm alone in here. Your husband is not in my head. He gave his life for nothing. He died. He's not with me. If anything, I thought Kane would have been the one who could sell the fact that, like, yeah, they've been lying to you, because the primes have been lying. So, like, plus there's no way to prove that they're lying, right? So it's either Kane was going to do it, because, like, for him, yeah, that's what they did. It's only, I think everybody, Sanctum, all the people in Sanctum believe that what all the hosts of the primes are experiencing is something what Clark and Josephine are doing right now. The fact that it's two minds in one body and they're fighting for control in between. I think if it was something like that and it wasn't detrimental to the body itself, then I could see how the people of Sanctum would be so ready and feel like it's an honor to share a body with another consciousness. But the fact that it's not that, the fact that they're actually killing the original consciousness of the host and then putting themselves in it, which is something Kane could attest to, that's another different story. And I was just disappointed that he was put in a situation where he could easily do it, or he's put in a position where it would be easier for him to do it, and yet he doesn't before he floats himself. So I just think it was a missed opportunity there, because now I feel like if they were ever to try to expose the primes to Sanctum with just words, they're not going to listen to them without proof. They're just going to say, the primes are just going to say they're lying, it's not a case, your precious host is still residing inside of us. And they could just be lying, they could just be bullshitting and all, but Kane would have been the one that's like, no, that's not true. And I think with Kane, they would have believed it because of the fact that he's actually in the situation. So peeved because it was a lost opportunity, and I feel like they could have done a lot more with Kane the second than just having him float off with the Night Serum. So there's that. Random questions though, very quickly. If Octavia picked the green box over the red box, would that have led to her having the answers from the anomaly or the memories of her in the anomaly that she was supposed to find? That's one thing there. And the second question was, now that the serum is destroyed, what is their next move? They can't expect to return to Sanctum and expect everything to be okay, especially if Simone reports to Russell what truly happened to the serum and the fact that they kind of went back on their deal. Not counting what is happening on the ground with Josephine being taken from the primes and being forced against her will to eject herself, as they're going to view it. So that's a question where it's like, where do they truly go from here? I mean, at this point, both sides, both what's happening on the ground and both what's happening in space, they've pretty much gone past the point of no return when it comes to gardening peace between the two. So what's next? So there's that. Moving on to predictions very quickly. Based off the promo for 610, it looks like it's going to focus on Josephine and Clark having to deal with the barrier between their two minds slowly breaking down. And they're back in Clark's mind space, so it looks like a lot of things are either going to merge or a lot of things are going to be disappearing. So they're running out of time. So there's that. Synopsis for the episode reads that Russell seeks justice. And then meanwhile, Gabriel must make a difficult choice. And then lastly, the Blake siblings unite. I'm excited to see Bellamy and Octavia reuniting. I'm wondering where they're going to go, or like, how will that be? Because at this point, Bellamy he's not really in a place to forgive Octavia. He's been focused recently on saving Clark. But I wonder if when Bellamy sees Octavia, if he's going to notice that a difference has happened, or a shift has happened within his sister. I'm going to wonder if he's going to notice that and see if things are possible to repair between them. So I'm hoping for that. When it comes to Gabriel making a difficult choice, it's going to have to probably deal with, is he going to save Josephine and eject Clark from her body, or is he going to take Josephine out and save Clark from her? So that's going to be something there. Russell seeking justice, that's probably going to have to deal with all of our characters that he's taken captured inside the walls of Sanctum. If not, it's probably going to be another order to try to get Josephine back, or it might have to deal with the people up in space. Who knows? But there's that. Also, another thing I forgot was the fact that Bellamy made a specific point in the fact that none of the radios work on Sanctum. But the children of Gabriel seem to still work under the impression that it would. And we do see that any radio call made, they might not be able to communicate with each other. But if you're at the anomaly, you will hear the radio call, which we've seen Gabriel and Octavia do so, both with the announcement that Josephine was in the woods, and also Clark's message to Gabriel about her having Josephine stuck in her head. So they both heard it, so it's possible. It's just not like how it was on Earth. So there's that. Also, another tidbit I just remembered. Gabriel pointed out the fact that on Sancta, there was a reason why all life on the planet did not go past the reptile phase. And he said something along the lines of how, like, it was kind of a sign that humans weren't meant to be on the planet, but then they came and settled, and things are trying to adapt from there. So that's another tidbit there I just completely forgot until now. So there's that. Other news, though, I will have to say this. I guess it just further confirms that we're not going to have Kane anymore. But on June 28th, which was a few days after 608 had aired, Henry Ian Cusick, the original Kane, got signed to be a series regular for season 4 of MacGyver. So that would have confirmed the fact that he wasn't going to be playing Kane anymore, which would have set up Kane the second taking over in his position. But the fact that Kane got floated in this episode kind of stops all of Kane in general. So that's unfortunate there. But I am excited to see his character on MacGyver, since I do watch that show. And it'll be interesting to see what he does there. But otherwise, that is pretty much it, guys. What did you guys think of the episode? What did you guys like about it? What do you think is going to happen next in the final 4 episodes of the season. Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your thoughts, theories, and opinions about all of that. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all the good stuff, all fun in one place. Go check that out. I do have to get back on it. I just returned recently from a very short vacation, but I will have to get back into updating Tumblr, so be patient with me on that. WordPress is also an option. Link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected through WordPress. It's a little more organized, it's a little more detailed, but again, still a work in progress. So keep that in mind as well. But otherwise, that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you guys come back next week to see what I have to say about my next about the next episode. Also, I'm going to be on the lookout just to see if the 100 is going to be at the San Diego Comic-Con, because they don't have a panel as far as the scheduling is concerned. But Eliza and Bob did appear last year, and they were doing a whole bunch of interviews, so maybe something similar to that is going to happen this year, where we can get some spoilers for Season 7. But if so, then I will do a video about that. But otherwise, I'll let you guys know in my 610 video, so be on the lookout either way. But yeah, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week, wherever you are. Bye, guys.